Since 1976, the state's ambulance service has operated under the umbrella of the Health Department. But a study by the Public Accounts Committee found the organisational structure to be cumbersome and top-heavy. It recommended a streamlining to reflect modern management practice, meaning that bureaucracy was getting in the way of decision-making. This is acknowledged by the Hunter Region's top ambulance administrator.
It was difficult in getting ideas and decisions out of the upper echelon of the Health Department, and I would see that now with the establishment of a board that there will be direct access and responsibility of that board to the Minister direct.
State Cabinet has approved a new body to run the ambulance service and oversee its annual budget of $130 million. A statutory corporation will be established, headed by a 12-man board and a chief executive officer. The organisation would be modelled on the area health service boards. But Hunter ambulance officers are set to oppose the reforms, calling for more representation on any management restructuring.
We could find grossly inadequate and bad decisions being made both in the public's interest and in the interests of the men themselves. And in that case, as I've said before, the industrial situation would deteriorate to the point where industrial action of a very serious nature couldn't be ruled out.
Health Minister Collins is expected to introduce legislation for the reforms in the current session of Parliament. But as ever, the fate of that legislation will rest with the Democrats. Without their support, the legislation could be doomed. John Church, NBN News.
The murder of Teresa Ann Veach has sent shockwaves through the Maitland community. Her body was found close to the scene of the as-yet unsolved murder of 31-year-old Elizabeth Dixon in 1982. But unlike that case, police have made an early arrest. 24-year-old Kevin Anthony Veach made a brief appearance in Maitland Court this morning, charged with the weekend murder of his younger sister. He sat quietly in the dock as police gave a brief account of the events which took place in the family's Turnbull Street home. The court heard the defendant approached his sister as she slept with the intent to have sexual intercourse. When she awoke, he tried to subdue her, strangling the young woman. Police said he removed the body in the victim's car, driving to an isolated area where he dumped the vehicle. Some hours later, passers-by told police of a suspicious-looking car abandoned in bushland at Ashton Field. Miss Veach's body was discovered when the boot was forced open. A post-mortem revealed death by strangulation. Police said Veach has made full admissions to his sister's murder. Magistrate Gary Cox ordered he undergo counselling and a psychiatric assessment, remanding him in custody until June 29. These animals are at the centre of a debate polarising the many fans of Newcastle's Blackbutt Reserve. The protagonists agree on certain points. Each wants to preserve the area for future generations. Each claims to have the best interests of the caged animals at heart. But when it comes to the future of those animals, the feathers fly. Newcastle Council has commissioned a long-term management plan for the reserve. Among a series of strategies, the Mackenzie report recommends all wildlife enclosures and aviaries be removed from the forest environment. The 12-member Blackbutt Reserve Advisory Committee agrees. Caged animals, they say, don't mix with the reserve's unique bushland features.
If it continues as it is, as the years go by, we will finish up with a parkland with animals, not a unique reserve like we've got now.
Tonight, the Advisory Committee will urge Aldermen to adopt the consultant's recommendations. If Council does so, the animals will be evicted and moved to an as-yet undisclosed location, a proposition which distresses members of the citizen-based Blackbutt support group.
Oh no, the animals should stay, definitely stay. But if they're going to stay, their enclosures must be upgraded.
I can assure them that every member of the Blackbutt committee are as concerned as they are about the animals. And in no way does the Blackbutt committee want the animals to completely disappear. Surely there must be other places in close proximity that they could be housed better, where children could have more access to them too.
Apart from the odd exception, Blackbutt's animals are without a voice. For now, they remain in limbo, their future resting on the outcome of debate between Blackbutt's well-intentioned interest groups. Leslie Robinson for NBN News.
In the room, 71 million, 72 million in time. Warning them, in the room against the telephone. It is in the room still at $73 million against you here.
It's a quiet time in the vineyards. Vintage is long gone and the vines are dormant before pruning, and the spring brings on another season of growth. But those responsible for upholding the hunter's cherished reputation as a high-quality production area are far from inactive. 150 producers listened intently today to expert speakers who covered most facets of grape growing, from improving soil quality, a problem in much of the Lower Hunter, to plant nutrition and maximising production while maintaining quality. It's more important than ever for small producers because production is up and consumption down, and widespread rationalisation of the industry is inevitable.
They must be taught the modern methods, the ways of improving efficiency. Those that drop out are going to be making bad wine and inefficient producers. So for a new vigneron coming in, he must be versed with the technology, he must be versed with what land use he's got, and he must be able to act on it quickly.
An indication of how highly the seminar is regarded was healthy sponsorship from the State Bank and a promise of more in the future. Field demonstrations later concentrated on the production of more grapes while maintaining or even improving quality.
Because that's what happened years ago when vines were growing very lush, growing very vigorously. The wine quality dropped off because they couldn't handle the changes that would occur because of the growth habit of the vine. Now we have the technology, a lot of it's from Italy and a lot of it's from Germany, where we can slow that growth down or change the growth into producing fruitful grapes, quality grapes.
With rapid changes in the industry brought about by the tough economic times, it's seminars like this which will go a long way towards maintaining the hunter's reputation.
Surrounded by some of the country's leading studs, Scone claims to be the horse capital of Australia. It's not just an idle boast. Every year since 1945, breeding and racing experts have converged on the township for a thoroughbred sale that has become the best of its kind.
Well, the Hunter Valley is the centre of the horse breeding industry in Australia, and there's a great congregation of horses in this area. Therefore, the sales each year have the most entries and the best quality by a long way.
The sale began today with the auction of 180 mares and 60 weanlings. The big money won't come out until the yearlings make their appearance on Sunday, but a simple wave of the hand could still be a costly experience.
2,000 in front of me bid. I settle out at 2,000. Any more money on the left? 2,200. 2,400. Out she goes to 2,400. Any more, Robert? I settle out at 2,400. She goes. Done. 2,400 is Christian Caliphate.
It was a cutthroat situation, but the tension seems certain to increase come Sunday when some of the country's finest sires will be represented at the yearling sales.
Well, we've got a very good offering of yearlings on Sunday, and they're running for or going through the ring. Everyone that's sold is eligible for a very big bonus, approaching 100,000 to the horse that wins the most prize money during the year. And the quality of yearlings are exceptionally good in the sale on Sunday.
Mr. Hawke was quick to assure reporters his doctors see the operation as routine, but he had the sense of humour to admit his staff saw it in a much more ribald light.
Whether it requires the, as they put it, the introduction of a private member's bill.
Treasurer Keating will have other matters on his mind. He's already deeply involved in structuring the budget. It's expected to contain spending cuts in excess of $1.5 billion.
Jeff Doyle led the rampaging Knights 13 that finished 8 points in front of the Steelers in early July. Newcastle placed 7th overall in 89, while the Steelers won the wooden spoon. This year, 1 point separates the two teams on the ladder, and Sunday's game is vital to their chances of making the finals this year.
This is a real must-win situation for both teams, and it's been the papers that they're treating it like a grand final, so we will too, obviously.
David Mullane hails from Sawtell near Coffs Harbour, and in 1988 toured New Zealand with the Australian schoolboys. In his second season with the Knights, he made a brilliant debut against St George with crunching tackles and a sound hooking job after Scott Carter was replaced after only 4 minutes of play. The second-year refrigeration mechanic apprentice is now hell-bent on continuing as Mark Sargent and Peter Johnson's front row partner.
That's where everyone wants to be, and it's not easy to stay there, and it's pretty much a week-to-week thing, so you just got to dig in and do your best.
And for the former 5'8", wearing the number 9 jumper holds no fears.
Strong tackle from Mullane underneath.
Delivering a pregnant mum to hospital turned into a real-life delivery for ambulancemen John Creamer and Neville Carton in the early hours of this morning. They received a routine call to take a woman in labour to hospital, but there was nothing routine in what was to happen.
Well, when we arrived there, the lady was very much in labour. We weren't sure just how close she was, but we knew that it was sort of fairly close at the time. And our aim there at the house was to get her into the ambulance as quick as possible where all the facilities are at hand for the delivery.
But they had only minutes after Mum Heather was in the ambulance before 46-centimetre long, 2,500 gram Jake made his presence well and truly known.
Not too many babies are either born at home or back of ambulances these days, so it was a very good surprise and a very good experience.
There were no complications to the birth, but today Jake was being given expert care at Belmont Hospital. Neville, a single man, has now delivered 3 babies as an ambulance officer. John, a father of 2, has helped 2 more come into the world. And both were like proud dads when they visited little Jake this afternoon.
I think all times are special when these things happen, but it's nice to know that everything went off properly and there's no complications, and it's a great feeling to know everything's okay.
It was a far cry from the glamour launch of the sleek yachting Tavern on Newcastle's waterfront just 22 months ago. On that occasion, it was VIP guests, chicken and champagne. Today, only a small team of removalists are on hand to farewell the carefully planned replica of the all-conquering Windward Passage 2 yacht that was the showpiece of one of the most ambitious ventures of media high-flyer Rod Muir. The hull and mast have been moved to Muir's Central Coast home, where, for the time being, they'll remain in storage. Mr Muir has no real plans for either, though it is rumoured they are up for sale, with a price tag around the $20,000 mark. Meanwhile, all the adjoining fixtures and fittings from the Tavern will go under the auctioneer's hammer on site on Wednesday morning. Once they're gone, the site will be cleared and made into a car park for the relocated Newcastle Workers Club, which will soon be setting up on a short-term basis in the neighbouring Key 1 building. It's been a long road to recovery for Norm Duffy. He's finally going home after more than 140 days in hospital. This morning, the nursing staff of Ward 100A at the Royal wish Norm the best with a farewell morning tea. It's easy to see why Norm has so many friends in the hospital. He never stops smiling despite what he's been through. Norm lay in the ruins of the Workers' Club for 5 hours, his wife Miriam dead beside him. But Norm never gave up. Despite his extensive injuries, he comforted 2 women trapped beside him. Norm is the last earthquake victim to leave the Royal, and although he admits it will be hard to adjust to life outside the hospital with his injured leg, he's more than willing to give it a go.
Well, I'm lucky to have this anyway. They served it. They're going to, lop it off twice. The doctors work hard. I said to the doctor, I'll be able to dance when it's healed. He said, certainly. I said, that's good, because I couldn't dance before, like.
The Hunter is suffering a severe shortage of flu vaccine. With a winter flu epidemic due to strike, only 1 in 10 people who want the vaccine will get it.
Students travelled from as far as Armidale and Kempsey to join the 2-day Home Economics Seminar at Newcastle University. The program addressed the HSC curriculum. For some it was old ground, but there were certainly gaps to fill, as speakers covered housing, consumerism, nutrition and study skills.
Most of them have just had their half-yearlies and they're starting to think that perhaps they should do a little bit more study, and they've been quite nervous here this morning, wondering what's in store for them.
Organisers say the program reflects the changes in the home economics syllabus. Not just cooking and sewing, but a subject which prepares students for careers in management, nutrition and applied science.
This is one way of avoiding the winter sniffles, a shot of vaccine. But for most people, the only alternative is luck and good health, as the Hunter suffers its worst shortage of vaccine in more than 10 years. It's a problem of supply and demand as Australia braces itself for an expected flu epidemic.
The likelihood is that we'll have an epidemic of flu, simply because what happens in Europe and the Northern Hemisphere in the winter before ours is usually what happens here. And in November and December of '89, the Northern Hemisphere had its worst epidemic of influenza for 15 years.
The vaccine is made by injecting the flu virus into fertilised hen's eggs, where it incubates. Each egg yields 1 vaccination. A spokesman for the Commonwealth Serum Laboratory in Melbourne, Australia's only manufacturer of the vaccine, says it did underestimate this year's demand, but added production was up 30% on previous years. Reserve stocks, usually available from overseas, were used to combat the flu in Europe. Only 1 more batch of the vaccine will hit the market this year. And while the hunter is receiving preferential treatment because of earthquake damage to hospitals, vaccine will still be scarce and spared for the most needy.
The people that should be immunised against influenza are elderly people with chronic illnesses of one sort or another, particularly people with illnesses of the lungs or of the heart or the kidneys. And there are other people too, mostly elderly, but younger people who say have got diabetes or endocrine disorders. But generally speaking, healthy adults and children have no need for immunisation.
Tucker and Company chose the Hamilton TAFE College's Food and Hospitality School to mount the impressive display. Representing the upper echelon in liquor from around the world, the wares include Bollinger champagne and the best spirits. But there's a strong showing of Australian wineries, including Brokenwood at Pecolbin. The makers were there too, extolling the virtues of their wares to local hoteliers and restaurateurs and TAFE students as well. And Australia's largest independently owned brewery was represented by the founder, Dr. Charles Hahn, who was absolutely bubbling about his premium lager. But so much for talking and demonstrating, it's tasting that tests such products, and there was plenty of opportunity to do that. Some bubbly. And then a red. Very nice. What about some Halliday's Chardonnay from the Yarra Valley? More red, why not? And while no one's looking, a quick clean out of the one and only glass for some Sauterne. But after all this, time again for a palate cleansing lager.